Want to build real wealth with Airbnb? In this video, I'm going to give you the most comprehensive guide on YouTube for how to buy your first short-term rental property. And here's the thing, a lot of people get this totally wrong. They jump in without understanding the market, they buy the wrong locations, or they completely mess up their numbers, and they end up losing money instead of building real wealth. But by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to avoid these mistakes. I'm gonna walk you through the exact process I've used to help hundreds of investors buy profitable Airbnb properties. You'll learn how to find the right market, analyze deals quickly, and set your property up for success right from day one. Plus, I'll show you a tool that's worth over $500 that you can use to analyze any Airbnb market in under 15 minutes. Let's dive right in with why you should even consider buying an Airbnb property in the first place. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. James, isn't it too late to get into Airbnb? Isn't the market oversaturated? Here's the truth. Yes, some markets are saturated, but that's actually good news for you, because now we can look at the data and see exactly what works and what doesn't. And here's what the data tells us. A well-run Airbnb property can generate 2 to 3 times more revenue than a traditional long-term rental. I've seen this firsthand with properties in my portfolio, and I see it every day with investors in our community. But here's what makes Airbnb properties even better. You get to use them yourself. This is what I call lifestyle investing, where your investment actually enhances your life beyond just making you money. Think about it. You can buy a property in your favorite vacation spot, use it whenever you want, and then rent it out the rest of the time to cover your mortgage and generate a profit. It's literally having your cake and eating it too. Plus, you have way more control over your earnings compared to traditional rentals. You can adjust your prices daily based on demand. You can add services on like early check-in or late checkout. You can optimize your listing to attract better guests. These are all things that you just can't do with a long-term rental. Now, let's talk about the most important decision you'll make, which is choosing the right market. This is where most new investors mess up. They either buy in their local market without researching to see if it's actually good for Airbnb, or they chase after hot markets that are already oversaturated, or they completely ignore local regulations and get burned by that. Here's exactly how to avoid all of these mistakes. First, you need to look at 4 key metrics. Number 1 is average daily rate. This tells you how much properties typically rent for in your target market. Number 2 is occupancy rate. This shows you what percentage of the time properties are actually booked. Number 3 is revenue potential. This number combines your average daily rate and your occupancy to show you an actual earning potential for a given listing. And number 4 is seasonality. This shows you how your income might fluctuate throughout the year. But here's the thing. These numbers alone aren't enough. You also need to check your local regulations. This part is crucial. You also want to look at competition levels, growth trends, and major attractions or demand drivers in the area. Let me show you exactly how I analyze these different elements. First, let's look at an example of how this works in the real world. Say you're looking at a market like Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Great area, tons of tourism, and beautiful mountains. But if you just look at the basic numbers, you're missing the bigger picture. Sure, the average daily rate might be $200 and the occupancy might be 70%, but you've got to dig deeper than that. First, what's driving those numbers? In Gatlinburg, you've got the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, you've got Dollywood, and you've got year-round tourist attractions. And it's also within driving distance of several major cities. These are the kind of demand drivers that you want to look for in any given market. But here's where most people mess up. They see these good numbers, they see the tourism, and they just jump in without checking the most important thing: regulations. You need to understand the local short-term rental rules before you spend a single dollar. And I'm not just talking about city regulations. You need to check your county rules, HOA restrictions, zoning requirements, and future regulatory changes that might be coming down the pipeline. Trust me, I've seen investors lose thousands because they skipped this step. Now, once you've found a market that looks good, it's time to run the numbers. And this is where I see a lot of people get really overwhelmed, understandably so. but I'm gonna make this super simple for you. Here's my exact process for analyzing any Airbnb deal. First, you need to calculate your all-in costs. Start with your purchase price. Let's say you're looking at a 3-bedroom house for $300,000. Your renovation budget, which is usually $15,000 to $20,000 for a decent property. Your furnishing costs, planned for about $20,000 to $30,000 for a nice setup. Your closing costs, typically 3 to 5% of the purchase price, and any immediate repairs that are needed. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You need to look at your monthly expenses next. And I mean all of them. Your mortgage payment, your property taxes, your insurance, which by the way, is higher for short-term rentals, so don't forget about that. You need to look at your utilities, which you'll be paying for, your cleaning fees, and your property management fees if you're using a property manager, as well as maintenance reserves and platform fees. Quick note here, inside B&B Tribe, you'll get access to my exact spreadsheet that calculates all of this stuff automatically. It's the same spreadsheet that I use to analyze every single deal, and it's worth over $500 on its own. Plus, you'll get special discounts on everything from property management software to cleaning services. If you want to check out B&B Tribe, the link will be at the top of the description down below. But let's keep going. Now that you know your costs, you need to estimate your revenue. And this is where you need to be super realistic. Don't just look at the top performing properties in your market. Look at properties similar to what yours will be. Look at their occupancy rates month by month, their average daily rates throughout the year, and the amenities that they're offering. Then take those numbers and be conservative. Now, here's what to actually do with these numbers once you have them. You want to look at 3 main calculations. First is your cash flow. This is simply your monthly revenue minus all your monthly expenses. Let's use our $300,000 house as an example. Say you're bringing in $7,000 a month in average revenue with this property, and your monthly expenses look like this. Your mortgage payment at $1,500, your property taxes, $300. Let's say you've got your insurance for $200 a month, your utilities, $300 again, your cleaning fees, $700, property management, maybe $1,400, your maintenance reserve would be about $300 a month, and then your platform fees of $200. That puts your total monthly expenses at about $4,900. This means you're cash flowing about $2,100 per month. Now, this is the kind of deal that you want to look for. Let me show you why. The second calculation is your cash on cash return. This shows you what percentage return you're getting on the actual money that you put into the deal when you purchased it. So let's say you put down 20%, $60,000. Plus another $50,000 for closing costs, renovations, and furnishing. So you're all in for $110,000. That $2,100 a month in cash flow gives you $25,200 per year. Take that number and divide it by $110,000 that you've got into the deal, and that gives you about a 23% cash on cash return. Anything over 15% is great here. That's the sweet spot that we look for in short-term rental investing. But it gets even better with the third calculation, which is your total ROI. Your total ROI includes your cash flow, which in this example was 23%, your property appreciation, which typically is about 3% annually to be conservative, your mortgage pay down, about 3% of your property value each year, your tax benefits, which are going to vary by situation, but can be 2 to 3% again, and then the value of your personal usage, which is easily worth another 2 to 3% if it's a great property that you really love. When you factor all of these things in, you're looking at potential total returns of 25 to 30% annually on a good deal. This is why I love short-term rental investing so much. Where else can you get returns like this while also building long-term wealth and having a vacation property that you can use for yourself? But here's the key. You've got to find the right deals to get numbers like these. And you've got to analyze the deals properly. That's why inside B&B Tribe, we've got a calculator that does all this math automatically. You just plug in your purchase price, your estimated revenue, and your expenses, and it shows you exactly what your returns will look like. Plus, it'll help you to compare different properties side by side to find these kinds of high-performing deals. All right, now let's talk about how to actually pay for your Airbnb property. And before we dive into the specific financing options, I do need to make something really clear. There is a big difference between lifestyle investing and what I call leveraged work. Let me explain. Lifestyle investing is when your money is working for you. You buy a property, set it up properly, and it generates income to support your lifestyle. This is where you can use the property yourself, have a management team, handle all the day-to-day stuff, and then truly build wealth without trading your time for it. Now, leveraged work is different. This is where you're actively building a business around short-term rentals. You're hustling to find creative deals. You're managing multiple partnerships with investors, and you're essentially creating a high-paying job for yourself. Both approaches can make money, but they're completely different paths. If you're looking for true lifestyle investing, here are your best financing options. First is gonna be conventional mortgages because you get the lowest interest rates possible, you have predictable 30-year terms, and you can qualify using your regular income. With a conventional loan, you're typically looking at 15 to 20% down, and you can use your income to help you qualify. Next on the list would be short-term rental specific loans. These are also great for lifestyle investing because they're designed specifically for Airbnb properties. Yes, they usually have higher interest rates, larger down payments, and shorter terms, but they're still a solid option if you want a hands-off lifestyle investment. The main benefit here is that you can use short-term rental income to help you qualify for the loan, which can make it great for that second or third property. Now, if you're looking to make this your primary business, if you want to build a portfolio of properties quickly and you're willing to put in the work, then you might want to look at more creative options. Things like partnership structures or seller financing or lease options. But here's what you need to understand. The moment you start using these more creative strategies, you're moving more away from the lifestyle investing and more into building an active business. You'll likely make more money, but you'll also spend more time managing your deals, have more moving parts to handle, and you're also going to create more of a job than an investment, at least early on. Neither approach is wrong, it just depends on your goals. Inside B&B Tribe, we've got members doing both strategies successfully. But here's my advice. If you're just starting out and you want true lifestyle investing, start with traditional financing or a short-term rental loan, put down 20% if you can, and focus on one property that you can truly optimize. Get that first property running smoothly and generating income before you even think about scaling. This way, you're building real wealth without creating another job for yourself. Now, once you've got your financing figured out, let's talk about setting up your property for success. And this part is crucial because the systems you put in place here will determine just how much freedom you ultimately have down the road. Let's break this down into three main areas. First is your physical setup. When you're furnishing your property, you need to think about three things: your guest experience, durability, and maintenance. A lot of new hosts make the mistake of buying cheap furniture to save money up front. Don't do this. Instead, invest in quality mattresses that'll last, durable furniture that can handle constant use, and ideally, commercial grade appliances. Yes, this costs more up front, but it saves you thousands in the long run. Plus, better furnishings mean better reviews, which means more bookings and higher nightly rates. Now, the second area to focus on is your systems and automation. This is where most hosts get stuck in the weeds, constantly managing their properties. But if you want this to be a true lifestyle investment, you need to automate everything you can. You'll want a property management system for your bookings. You'll want automated messaging for guest communication, digital guidebooks for check-in and property info, smart locks for contactless check-in, and automated pricing software. Inside B&B Tribe, we've got a complete guide to setting up these systems, plus special discounts on all the tools you need. The third area is your team. And this is where most people try to save money, but then end up creating more work for themselves. Here's what you actually need. First, you need a reliable cleaning team. Next, you're gonna need a reliable maintenance person on call. And then you'll want a property manager if you're not local, and add an accountant who understands short-term rentals. Yes, all of this costs money, but remember, we're building a lifestyle investment here, not a second job. Let me show you the math. Say you're making $7,000 a month in revenue. Paying for a full team might cost you $500 to $1,400 for property management. That depends on whether you hire your own team or you outsource to a co-host. Maybe $700 for cleaning, which should be fully covered by your cleaning fees. And then let's say another $300 for maintenance and $200 for accounting and bookkeeping. That's $1,700 to $2,500 in team costs. But now you've got a true lifestyle investment that runs without your daily involvement, maintains consistent quality, and frees you up to live your life. Plus, when you have professionals handling everything, you usually see better reviews, better repeat booking rates, and fewer maintenance issues. This is how you create real freedom and location independence. Now, let's talk about launching your property the right way. And I cannot stress this enough, your first 30 days are critical because Airbnb's algorithm looks at your early performance to determine where you'll show up in the search results long term. So you need to absolutely nail your initial launch. Here's my exact process. First is your pricing strategy. A lot of people will tell you to price high when you launch to make as much money as possible. That's actually a huge mistake though. Instead, you want to price about 15 to 20% below the market rate for similar properties. This does two things. It gets you a flood of initial bookings, and it tells Airbnb that guests really love your listing. Next, your listing optimization. This is where most hosts just throw something together, but you need to be strategic here. Your listing needs a headline that highlights your best features, professional photos. By the way, this is worth every penny. You need a detailed description that answers common questions, and you need clear policies that protect you and your property. Quick tip on photos, get them done before you start accepting bookings. I see so many hosts try to launch with phone pictures and then upgrade later. Bad move. Those first impressions matter, and poor photos will hurt your search ranking more than anything else. Now, here's my secret weapon for launching. I call it the perfect guest profile. Before you accept a single booking, you need to define who your ideal guest is, what they're looking for, and how your property serves them. This is going to help you to write better descriptions, set the right house rules, and attract the kind of guests that you want to have. For example, if you're targeting families, you might highlight child-friendly features or nearby attractions or safety measures. But if you're targeting business travelers, you might instead choose to focus on workspaces, fast Wi-Fi, and a quick check-in process. Again, inside B&B Tribe, we've actually got a template for creating your perfect guest profile. Plus, you'll get access to our listing optimization checklist that walks you through every single step. Now, let's talk about your first month of operations. For the first 30 days, you want to respond to inquiries within an hour, get your cleaners in immediately after checkout, and ask every guest for a review. This shows Airbnb that you're a serious host. But here's the key. You need to set up systems to do all this stuff automatically. Remember, we're building a lifestyle investment, not a job. So you want automated messaging templates, a cleaning team on standby, and review request automations. This way, everything happens without your constant involvement. After your first month, you can start gradually raising your rates and dialing back your time, but only if you're getting 5-star reviews, multiple bookings, and positive guest feedback. Now, there's one more crucial piece to launching successfully, and I know what some of you are thinking at this point. James, this sounds like a lot of work. I thought this was supposed to be a passive lifestyle investment. And you're right, it is a lot of work up front. Those first 60 to 90 days, you're gonna be setting up systems, building your team, fine-tuning your pricing, creating automations, and learning the ropes. It can feel overwhelming for sure. But here's the thing, you're building a system. It's like setting up a vending machine. There's work up front to find the right location, stock the machine up, and set up maintenance, and dial in your pricing even. But once it's up and running, it just works. That's exactly what we're doing with your Airbnb property. After those first few months, if you set everything up properly, your involvement drops to maybe 3 or 4 hours per month. You're just reviewing your numbers, making minor adjustments, and collecting your profits. This is when it becomes a true lifestyle investment with much more passive income. Okay, now the final step to a successful launch is fine-tuning. Once your property is up and running, there are 3 main areas to focus on. First, your pricing strategy. You want to be fine-tuning your rates based on local events, seasonal changes, and market trends. But again, we're not going to do this stuff manually. You'll use dynamic pricing software that'll automatically adjust your rates for maximum profit. Second, your guest experience. Look for patterns in your reviews and guest feedback. Are guests constantly mentioning things that they love, items they wish you had, or improvements that they suggest? Use this feedback to make strategic upgrades that increase your revenue and your guest satisfaction rates. And finally, your systems. Every few months, go in and review your automation workflows, your team performance, and your operating costs. Always be on the lookout for ways to make things even more hands-off or even more profitable. So now you've bought your property. you've launched it successfully, and you've dialed everything in so that it runs smoothly and profitably. If you've done things correctly, everything should run with minimal involvement from you. Now, what about scaling? This is where I see a lot of hosts get tripped up. They get one property running really well, and they immediately want to buy 3 more. But remember what we talked about earlier, lifestyle investing versus leveraged work? If you want to stay in the lifestyle investing lane, here's my advice. Master one property at a time. Get it to the point where it runs completely on autopilot, generates consistent cash flow, and takes minimal time to manage. Only then should you consider adding another property. Because here's the truth. One properly optimized property can generate $40,000 to $50,000 a year in income. That's life-changing money for most people. And it's highly passive, meaning you're not trading your time for money once it's all set up properly. Again, inside BNB Tribe, you'll see plenty of hosts doing exactly this. Hosts who aren't building huge portfolios. They're not working 60 hours a week. They're building real wealth through systems and automations. Speaking of which, if you want to fast track this whole process, you should really check out BNB Tribe. Inside BNB Tribe, you'll get all the things I've mentioned so far. So access to my complete STR ROI calculator, your complete step-by-step launch guides, all of our automation templates, and over $4,000 in vendor perks. But more importantly, you'll join a community of hosts who are building real wealth through lifestyle investing. I'm not a guru promising to make you a millionaire overnight. These are real people building real wealth one property at a time. People like Jonah, who used our system to launch his first property last year. He spent those first 90 days setting everything up exactly like we talked about. Now, his property runs smoothly, generating over $4,000 a month in income. And he absolutely loves going to visit the property and hang out there with his family. That's the power of doing this the right way. Being a part of BNB Tribe is just $49 a month, and you can cancel anytime if you decide it's not for you. The link to join is right down below at the top of the description. Whether you join us or not, here's what I want you to remember. Building wealth through short-term rentals isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about building systems that work for you rather than creating another job. Yes, it takes work up front. Yes, those first few months can feel overwhelming. But if you follow the process we covered today and you choose the right market, you set up proper systems, you build a reliable team, and you optimize for passive income, you can build real, lasting wealth that supports your lifestyle. Drop a comment below letting me know what market you're thinking about investing in. I read every comment and I love helping you guys find great opportunities. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.